evening to everybody. Welcome to another edition of Libertas. This is Tonino Abana. Tonight, our topic, we have two legal experts who will be discussing issues related to labor and taxes. So, yung mga may tanong tungkol sa labor and taxes, lalo na sa mga bagong batas, ihandaan nyo na yung mga cellphone ninyo, mag-text na kayo ng mga katanungan ninyo, ipa-flash namin, nandyan yung number sa screen. And kung pwede lang sana, just text your nickname and where you're texting from para alam namin kung taga Luzon ba kayo, Visayas or Mindanao, kasi may bearing yan dito sa pagsagot ng ating dalawang expert. On my left is a labor expert from ZG Law. Many years in the labor field as well as other fields of law. Let's welcome Attorney Tim Calumpong. Good evening, Tim.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
Thank you. Good evening, Tonino.
And to my far left is Attorney Micoy de la Fuente, also from ZG Law, who's a tax expert. Let's welcome Attorney Micoy de la Fuente.
Good evening.
Good evening. So, let's start off with labor kasi kakatapos lang ng Labor Day nung May 1 and the biggest headline there was endo. Ano ba yung endo, Attorney Tim? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng endo? Is that ano ba ibig sabihin ng endo?
Endo is the local parlance for an end of contract because workers, some of the workers are given contracts for a fixed employment, meaning their employment starts, for example, from day 1 and then that will last only after 6 months. This scheme is done to circumvent the constitutional guarantee against on security of tenure. So, if an employment contract has an end, then naturally, when that fixed period ends, no more employment.
Para sa manggagawa ho, bakit ba masama itong endo? Anong effect nito sa kabuhayan nila?
Well, if yung trabaho mo matatapos in 6 months, it means na wala ka ng trabaho. After 6 months, maghanap ka na naman. Pagka nakahanap ka na, meron ka na namang 6 months, after 6 months, wala na naman. Unlike yung regular employment na tuloy-tuloy lang yung trabaho mo, matatanggal ka lang kung nagkagawa ka ng kasalanan doon sa against the company or against your employer.
So, Attorney Tim, lahat ba ng klase ng industriya sakop ng nangyayari ba itong endo or pinapayagan ng contractualization? Ano bang pagkakaiba nun? Kasi, siyempre, lahat ng malalaking labor union ang gusto nila, let's end endo. Tapusin na yung endo kasi gusto ng mga manggagawa security of tenure. Pero may mga, the employers, some industries are saying, it cannot be applied to our industry. So how is that balanced by the government? And how do you differentiate between one and the other?
Meron kasi sa batas na sinasabi na hindi ka pwedeng i-contractualize mo ito o kaya i-contract out mo itong klaseng trabaho kung halimbawa ito naman ay necessary and desirable doon sa iyong business, no? For example, sa bangko, hindi ka naman siguro pwedeng mag-contractualize ng mga tellers ninyo para sabihin mo na, gusto ko agency itong mga teller ko. Kasi talagang essential yan sa business ng bangko. Nabigay sila ng service, so kausap mo dyan yung teller. So, yan, talagang hindi siya pwede. On the other hand, yun namang, for example, yung security guard sa bangko, pwede mo siyang i-contractualize kasi hindi naman siya necessary doon sa bangko. Although, parang unthinkable na mag-operate ka ng bank pero walang gwardiya. Pero technically, pwede. Pwede. So, yung gwardiya, usually meron silang security agency. So, ang kausap mo dyan, yung security agency. So, meron kang kontrata na agency pagdating dyan. Ngayon, usually yung agency naman na yon, merong yearly, merong 2 years yung kanilang kontrata, so nire-renew. Pero pag sabihin ng bangko na ayaw ko nang i-renew yung so wala na ring trabaho yung kanilang mga security guards. No?
So paano yun? Yung agency itself, full-time employee ba yung security guard dun sa security agency or may endo rin siya? Or may contractor din sila?
Yung security guard, full-time employee siya doon sa security agency. Ngayon, doon sa since meron namang kliyente yung security agency, pag natapos yung kontrata ng security agency, wala na rin siyang trabaho.
Sa mga ibang industriya, attorney team, kagaya ng construction, hindi ba project-based normally ang project sa construction?
Opo.
Merong endo dyan kasi contractual sila.
Opo, yung kasing project, natatapos yan eh. Pag natayo na yung building, wala ka nang, tapos na yung trabaho eh. So, tapos na rin yung trabaho ng mga laborers, tapos na yung trabaho ng mga gumagawa ng mga...
Paano ho yung mga sales lady, kagaya sa Shoe Mart, sa mga malalaking shopping center, sa mga Robinsons?
Yung kasing dyan sa mga malls na malalaki, ang tingin ko dyan, parang necessary and desirable yung mga kumbaga sa dispatsadora, yung mga tinatawag ng dispatsadora eh. Yun talaga yung service nila eh, magbebenta sila eh. So, yan, tingin ko dyan, necessary and desirable. Kaya lang, minsan may mga ginagawa naman sila na paraan na, for example, itong area na to, just for this company selling baby clothes. So, yung tao nagbabantay doon, tao siya nung parang concessionaire for that kind of baby clothes store. So, hindi sila parang empleyado doon sa mall. Parang ganun yung nakikita. Tingin ko, parang ganun yung nakikita. Meron din naman sinasabi na parang seasonal employees naman. For example, Christmas, malakas naman talaga yung sales niyan. Hindi naman siya abnormal naman talaga kasi sobrang lakas yung sales.
So doon pinapayagan ng contractualization?
Ang tawag naman doon, seasonal.
Seasonal employee.
Seasonal. So for that season, naka-contract out sila for that season only, from November to January. Meron silang ganong kontrata. Ito naman, talaga nasa batas sila. Seasonal workers, merong project employees, meron yung casual employment, like yung pinalitan niya yung secretary na nag-maternity leave. Pagkatapos ng maternity leave, balik na yung secretary, tanggal na rin siya. Kasi pinayagan ito.
Attorney, let's segue now to the new tax law and labor. Kasi last year may pinasang bagong batas ang pamahalaan through Congress, and we have a tax expert here, si Atty Micoy. Sir, anong epekto ng bagong tax law sa laborers? Itong bagong batas na pinasa, na pinapatupad na ngayon, the new tax law, which is called TRAIN. What's the effect on laborers?
Yung biggest effect kasi ng TRAIN is primarily, it lowers all income tax rates. According to the DOF, 99% of all taxpayers in the Philippines will benefit from TRAIN. How did they achieve this? Is by rationalizing the tax brackets and by lowering the income tax rates. Just to show you the slide.
Okay, let's show the slide, please, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's look at the slide.
On the left side is the income tax bracket rates before TRAIN. So if you can see, those people earning more than 500,000 a month, a year, are subject to 32% tax. Now, with TRAIN, if you're earning 500,000, your income tax rate is only 25%. So there's a big drop in the income tax rates. According to, as I said a while ago, 99% of all registered taxpayers in the Philippines will benefit from this. The 1% pertains to those earning more than 8 million a year.
So, kasi sa labor lang muna, up to what rate walang binabayaran na tax ang manggagawa? So, from 0 to anong...
250.
Hanggang 250.
Yes.
So, kung kumikita ka ng 250,000 a year,
Yeah.
wala kang taxes
Yes, correct.
with the new tax law.
Yes.
Nung araw meron.
Okay, we have to make a distinction, no? Kung yung mga salaried workers, so if you're a minimum wage earner, actually if you look at the TRAIN, ang malaking nagbe-benefit dito talaga are the minimum wage earners. Why did we say this? Because the minimum wage earners are exempt. Their minimum wage is, and the benefits that they receive pursuant to their minimum wage, so overtime pay, night differential pay, these are all exempt from tax.
Okay.
Under a 2008 law. Come in TRAIN, it increased the lowest bracket from 10,000 to 250. So what happened is, the minimum wage earner, if he's receiving additional allowances or bonuses from his employer, on top of the minimum wage, it is also exempt because it does not exceed the 250,000. So it's a big effect on the minimum wage earners. And in fact, it might be good to just be a minimum wage earner because you have the 250,000 bracket and then at the same time the exemption from minimum wage law.
What about their benefits? Tuloy-tuloy naman yung benefits nila like SSS, Pag-ibig.
That's all tuloy-tuloy naman. On the part of those who have own businesses naman, the big benefit of train is the VAT threshold was increased from 1.9 million to 3 million. Before, if your gross sales is more than 1.9 million, you pay VAT of 12%. That was increased by train to 3 million. So now, if you're less than 3 million, you just pay percentage tax of 3%.
Okay. We'll be going for the break, but before we go for the break, I'd like to just plug our Camp Kanawan video for everyone. And then please don't go away. We have two experts. Mahal po ang bayad sa kanila. Kaya kung magtatanong kayo, dapat ngayon na kayo magtanong dahil libre pa sila ngayon. Please don't go away. Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Abana with our experts, with our legal experts in law and in taxes from the Zambrano Gruba Law Office, si Attorney Tim Calumpong and Attorney Micoy de la Fuente. Before the break, Attorney Micoy explained to us na the new law, which is called TRAIN, has really benefited the labor sector because nawala yung taxes and not only on their wages but also on their benefits. And then the other thing that he mentioned is for the businessmen, for the small businessmen, tumaas yung threshold of non-VAT from 1.5 1.9 up to now it's 3
million.
So if your company is grossing less than 3 million a year,
No, just for individuals.
for individuals, wow,
Only.
that's
Yeah. So train one is just train one just talks about personal income tax. Yeah.
So individuals meaning professionals.
Yes, professionals.
So professionals that need to charge a VAT.
yeah.
So
Aside from the threshold, the goal of train was supposed to be to simplify also the tax system. No? So one way, if they did this, was if your gross sales does not exceed 3 million a year, you have the option to just pay 8% tax on your gross sales. So if you're earning earning less than 3 million, you pay income tax and you pay percentage tax. Normally, that entails you file around 8 returns a year. If you opt for the 8% tax, what happens is you just file 4 returns a year. So just a quarterly income tax return and the annual income tax return.
okay, so if you're a professional earning 3 million and
Less,
below,
yes.
imbis na merong magpe-present ka pa ng mga resibo and so on,
Yeah.
deductions, ang nangyari naging 8% gross
Yes,
na lang.
correct.
So you don't, and for the government, it's easier to compute.
Yes, correct.
Nung araw, you have to go through the whole
Yes.
process of collecting receipts and so on. And then what was the tax rate for 3 million then? It was like 32%?
No, yeah, at 32%. Yes.
So bumaba siya ng 8%
Yes.
of gross.
Yes, on gross.
On gross. Simplified for the... What about for... let's talk about people working in the call center industry, mga factory workers. How does train affect them?
Okay. As I mentioned a while ago, what's the average salary of a call center agent? Around maybe around 22,000.
Yes.
22 to 24,000 a year. So
A
a
month.
month, yes.
Oh,
So that
20 okay.
that entails to around 300,000 a year.
Okay.
So that means that their tax will be more or less only 20%.
Okay. So, ang pagbabago ng train is for those earning 20 to 25,000 or 26,000, bumaba yung taxes nila to 20%. 20%. Nung araw, what was it?
30%.
So, from 30%, yung tax bumaba sa 20%. So, mas lumaki yung take-home pay nila.
Yes.
And then, what about the next rate? Ano yung next rate? For middle managers?
Middle managers, well, between 400 to 800,000. If you're earning between 400 to 800,000, the basic tax that you pay is 30,000, and then in excess of the 400,000, you pay 25%.
So, bumaba pa rin yan?
Bumaba,
Oo.
yes.
That used to be what? 30 also?
Yeah, 30%. No. 32%.
32%. And then, the highest tax rate went up.
Yes. So now those earning 8 million and above, their tax rate is now 35%. But according to the DOF, the figures, it only although only the number of taxpayers is, I think, 0.1%.
Okay. So, actually, yung kumikita ng malaki, from 32%, naging 35%
Yes,
ang kaltas ng tax sa kanila. Ito na, pumapasok na po yung mga questions on labor. We have a texter from Dumaguete City. Good evening, mga sir. Bakit ang gobyerno, siya ang gumagawa ng batas, pero sila rin ang lumalabag sa batas tulad ng job order worker sa government. May nag-work lampas ng 10 years, siya, BJ ito from Dumaguete City. Attorney Tim.
Thank you for that question. Kababayan ko yan, taga Dumaguete.
Yes.
I think he's asking a question concerning government employees. Ang problema kasi dito is the government employees are covered by the civil service rules. Yung private sector is governed by the labor code. The labor code provisions on ENDO is not applicable to the government. Yun yung that's why I think Senator Escudero was saying the government is the biggest violator of this ENDO.
So, tama yung sinasabi ni BJ from Dumaguete.
Na hindi sinusunod. But if you look at it from the point of view of the law, point of view of the law, civil service rules apply. The labor code on ENDO does not apply to them.
Okay. This one is addressed to Attorney De La Fuente. Tanong ko lang dito sa Leyte at Samar, ang sahod na sa minimum wage lang umaabot sa 285 a day. Tama po ba? Yung ba ang minimum wage doon?
Because our minimum wage is regionalized. It is governed by the regional tripartite wage board, which sets the minimum wage for a particular region. So baka iba yung kanilang minimum wage doon.
Okay, another text from Retzel Tolentino from Fairview. Tanong ko po kay Attorney De La Fuente, may pinagkakaiba po ba ang impact ng train law sa beverage na sweetened by Splenda and beverage na sweetened by stevia? Salamat po.
That's a very good question, no? But that's...
Di ba parehong artificial yun?
Yeah,
Sweetener?
the excise rate on sweetened beverage, there are certain sweeteners that are subject to the excise, the excise tax. Then there are certain sweeteners that are not. That's a very technical matter that, I think the scientists will know how to deal with it. But basically, the ones that are taxes, the ones that are not tax are those that are natural-based, I think, sweeteners under the law. But Coke, Pepsi, I think most of the beverages will be taxed. But so what the beverage companies are doing is they're just reformulating their liquids so that they don't end up paying excise tax. So that's what they're doing now.
This is more a question for Attorney Tim. Ask ko lang po, may batas ba sa contractualization? May bagong batas ba for contractualization? If meron, sino ang author nito? Pabor po ba sa mga kapitalista? Pong Navales ng Aurora. So all over the country itong mga tanong natin,
I think
sir.
the latest, it's all over the news, is that the executive order signed by President Duterte regarding the making it illegal for the so-called ENDO. I think what the executive order does is to put the powers of the presidency on the statement that the ENDO is now illegal, because before it is just a department order by the Secretary of Labor, but now it now comes from the office of the president, that saying that ENDO and the CABO system are illegal, and that if you violate this rule or this prohibition, even the principal, those that are those that have a contract with the agencies now becomes the direct employers of the employees of those agencies.
So ang ano is, wala pang batas na bago? Except itong
That
EO, which is not
that
really, hindi pa siya batas talaga
that
actually.
executive order.
Executive order ng presidente. Pero
Yes.
yung batas na ipinapatupad sa Kongreso, wala pa.
It's still
nakasalang
it's
pa.
still the labor code. It's still the old Herrera that they call the Herrera law.
Okay, another question. Hi po, sir, paano naman kami sa LGU? Di ba may ordinance po na 5 years casual ka, i-consider ka ng permanent. Kailan po ba ito maaprubahan? Please don't mention my name and number.
The LGU is covered also by the Civil Service Commission. I know of many workers there who have been, the observation of the previous texter is correct. The 10 years already in the government and still they're not yet regular. They're still covered by contract of services.
So yung government employee, hindi covered by the same labor law
No.
of the country. Ay ba, bagong ano yan, ha? That's very interesting, ha? Learn something new every time here in Libertas. Sir, good evening po. Taga Leyte po ako. Tanong ko po, 2 years na in service in the private sector, wala po bang matatanggap na separation fee? Ng volunteer resignation po siya. Ang sabi kasi ng resident, manager namin ay nagbigay lang daw ng separation fee ang empleyado umabot ng 10 years in service sa kanya. Tama po ba yun?
Generally, pag nag-resign yung empleyado, wala talaga siyang separation pay. Unless merong policy yung company na pag nag-resign ka, after reaching how many years, pwede kang bibigyan ng separation pay.
Okay, good evening sir. Ano po ba ang programa ng gobyerno katulad namin mga SSS pensioners na apektado ng pagtaas ng bilihin dahil sa train law? Wala kasi kaming increase sa pension after ipatupad ang train law. Luis Donaire from Ormoc City. So ang sinasabi niya, basically, yung train law nakatulong dun sa mga low earners, pero tumaas naman ang presyo ng bilihin. So yung mga walang income, tsaka pension lang paano sila?
Well, yung maganda po sa train law is a certain portion of the proceeds from the increase of the taxes have been allocated to certain programs of the government. So there's a portion that is allocated for social services, and at the same time for the infrastructure program of the government. So though that we may not experience the immediate effects now, I think in long-term wise, with the program of the government, we expect that it will trickle down to the masses eventually. So we just need to be patient because things
in
don't
what
happen
way
overnight.
did the prices of goods and services go up with the
Well,
train law? Anong mga, maybe you can cite some of the industries affected by that.
Well, of course, with train law, they increased the excise tax on fuel.
Okay. So gasolina tumaas.
Yes, excise tax on
automatically.
coal,
Okay.
so energy also. So, but the government is saying that the increase in the oil is not just the cost of the train. It's also because of crude prices increased also abroad and inflationary effects. But I think we need to all be patient with the train. The train one is not just one law. It's supposed to be 5 laws. It's a complete package, complete overhaul of the tax system of the Philippines. That's something that we've not done in the past 20 years. So it's only now that the government, through the president, is pushing heavily to reform the system, to make it simpler, to broaden the tax base, and in the hope that with a simpler system, more people will be encouraged to pay the taxes and will be more encouraged to contribute to the government.
Okay, we'll be going for the break, but before I go for the break, before we go for the break, I'd like to ask you a question. Keep it hanging, and you can answer after. You're an expert on labor. You're an expert on taxes or taxation. What is your wish list or a dream law that you would like to wish for? And you can answer for that after the break. Please don't go away. Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Abana discussing taxes and labor. And we have two experts from the Zambrano Gruba Law Office. And my question to them before the break is, since experts sila sa labor at sa taxation, what do they consider an ideal law that they want to pass? Yung pinapanaginip nilang batas na sana ito yung para makatulong sa bayan. Let's probably start with Attorney Tim.
Maybe the most practical law that can be passed is regarding ENDO is a law that names or classifies the jobs that can be contracted out and that cannot be contracted out, because right now there's no defined jobs that may be contracted out and those that needs to be regularized. So maybe as a start, maybe we can say janitorial, and then security guards, then maybe messengerial, and then define all those jobs that can be contracted out and those jobs that cannot be contracted out. So maybe that will lessen the conflict in our that is now pending in our National Labor Relations Commission.
That's a good point. Thank you so much for your opinion on that. Attorney Micoy.
A very difficult question, no? But of course, I think a good law would be to exempt all lawyers from tax. No, but seriously aside, I think the problem with the passing tax laws is there's a lot of industries that are heavily lobbying. They're protecting each other's interests, and because of this, the tendency of the tax law is it's not equitable. It favors certain groups. It favors disfavors certain industries. So my dream law is, I hope, is that the Congress will pass a law that will really take into account the direction where the government wants to be in 10 to 20 years, and disregarding all the lobbyists, all the vested interest groups. And to be honest, I think that is what this government is trying to do. The dream is that the dream of the DOF is really to pass a law that would benefit all Filipinos, not just now, not just certain industry groups, but to benefit everybody 10 to 20 years from now. So I think we should give this government a chance, especially with the next package 2, the corporate income tax reform, and then the succeeding packages. So
thank you so much for your opinion on that, and hopefully the policymakers are listening to us, and maybe they will get some ideas from your comments here. Dami nagte-text po dito about yung regarding people working for the barangays, for the LGUs, and they don't know why they cannot be become regularized. So, ang dami pong mga questions dito like sa barangay and so on. Are they also subject to tax, yung mga barangay employees?
Yes, they are. Yes,
Meron din.
yes,
So same as regular workers, they're subject to the same train law.
Actually, I think that another problem with the barangay workers, with the job order contractors, is they're not, from the tax perspective, they're not treated as employees. So they're not subject to the graduated income tax scale. What I mean is, because they are not employees, they're treated as self-employed individuals. So because you're a self-employed individuals, aside from the income tax, you are required to also pay percentage tax if you're, of course, if your income is less than 3 million. But if it's more than 3 million, you pay 12% back. So the government workers need to be careful with the job orders. They don't just pay income tax; they also pay percentage tax. So they have the option now to be taxed at 8%.
May ano pa dito, wala naman pong control or sanction ng civil service commissions kasi di naman po dumadaan ang CSC ang appointment nila. Ang dami pong job order dito sa LGU namin, not to mention my name and LGU. So again, almost the same issue, no? Ang dami, no?
That's really a problem. That's really a problem. In fact, another problem there would be the contract from the template that is given by the Civil Service Commission stipulates that there is no employer-employee relationship that exists between the government or the local government and the employee, and yet the employees are treated like ordinary employees. They also report for work at around 8 o'clock. They are also allowed to what they call bandy the time
clock.
in the bandy clock. They are also subject to all the rules similar to the ordinary regular employees of the government. So, and yet their contracts stipulate that there's no employer-employee relationship.
Oh, that's really terrible. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity, since you took the time out to be my guest, so I'd like to give you these gift certificates from Vine Holistic Medical Aesthetics. Salamat. 2,500 worth of gift certificates from
thank
this
you.
aesthetic clinic.
We're now subject to excise tax.
It's a donation to you. Ang dami nagte-text. What about the tax collection effort of the government, Atty Micoy? How would you rate this government in terms of its tax collection effort? Because as you know, lahat ng panggastos ng gobyerno nanggagaling sa pagkolekta ng buwis. Is it more efficient now, or?
Well, based on the figures of the DOF, this present administration is hitting its targets. In fact, the first quarter of 2018, the collection of the BIR exceeded their revenue targets by around 13%. So it's attributable, one, to also the train. But at the same time, I think the leadership of the current BIR is doing a good job in emphasizing to us, the taxpayers, to pay the taxes. I just want to state something. I attended a seminar given by Deputy Commissioner Gubalya. He did mention that 98 to 99% of the collection of the government comes from the voluntary payments. 1 or 2% only comes from the assessments. So if some of you run businesses, you're always scared of the BIR issuing that letter of authority because they're going to audit you. But that just comprises 1 to 2% of tax collection. 98% is still voluntary payments. So the drive of this government is to inform everybody that you need to do your part. We need to, they've lowered the taxes for income tax. They've lowered the taxes for estate tax. They lowered the taxes for donors tax in the hope that people will be more compliant because they're seeing that the rates are going down, that they'll be more compliant and think twice of, they won't anymore hide non-payments. At the same time, they simplified the tax system, so it's more.
What's the maximum penalty that the BIR or the government can give to an individual that doesn't pay tax? Siguro, a lot of people are not aware of that. Pero can you go to jail dahil
Yes.
di ka nagbayad ng buwis? So pwede kang ikulong.
Yes, you can. In fact, even if you don't file a tax return, and you're required to file a tax return, that's a criminal offense also.
It's a criminal offense.
So even if you're not earning income, you're a registered taxpayer, you're supposed to file your income tax return.
And was there anyone jailed in your... Meron ba na sampulan dyan na hindi nagbayad ng buwis na tama and then nakulong?
I remember si Joel Reyes. I think there are some who have been found guilty by the Court of Tax Appeals, but I assume that it's being appealed now to the higher courts. But the government is really bent on going after errant taxpayers.
What about using taxation for political ends? The threat of taxation is really heavy, and in previous administrations, it was nabalita na it was being used for political ends.
Yeah.
Is that
Well, very difficult question. But I think that's something that the Tax Bureau needs to balance. Of course, if a person is really not paying their taxes, the motivation of the government should be because they want to collect the taxes, not because you want to pin down a political opponent. I think that's where the difference comes in. Unfortunately, if you're going after political opponents or criminals, one way to go after them is through taxes, because the tendency is they don't pay the correct taxes. Just like Al Capone in the U.S., he was not jailed because of his gangster crimes. He was jailed because of tax evasion.
Okay, ito, another text from the north naman, from Nian Kapitan Juan of Ilocos. Bakit po kailangan mas mababa ang minimum wage sa mga probinsya? Mas mahal po ang gasolina, consumer products at gulay. Pare-pareho lang naman. Sa Manila, lahat mura. Punta ka lang sa Divisoria at saka di na po sumusunod sa wage law sa mga barangay dahil masyadong mababa. Mga malalaking kumpanya at gobyerno sumusunod.
Meron silang tinatawag doon na parang cost of living is higher in the cities than in the province.
Oo.
Yan tayong sinusunod nila. So, anyway, yung tripartite board naman is composed of the laborers, the employers, and the government. They are the ones that set it, and they're guided by alam ko yung cost of living na, those factors that affect the cost of living.
Gano'ng kadalas ba nire-review yung minimum wage na yan?
Yung last time na nag-come up sila ng minimum wage was, I think, last year. No? Meron silang in-increasean nila ng ano. And then, they're, for example, in Metro Manila, they will come up with a wage order, staggered basis. So after this year, it will be this much. After next year, it will be this much. The following year, meron tumataas na naman. So meron silang ganong mechanism.
Let's go back to taxes, Atty Micoy. There was an article that the Association of Japanese Industrial Producers are complaining that, they're saying that if the incentives in the economic zones are removed, then there's no reason for them to be here. So is it really going to be affected by the new train law?
Yes. So Train 2, which is the package that will supposed to be reform the corporate income tax. One of the proposals there is to rationalize the grants of incentives. So one of which is to remove some of the incentives being granted. So that's the income tax holiday and the 5%.
So it hasn't been passed yet. That's why they're lobbying. So
yeah.
pinaglalaban
And then
nila.
there's the 5% gross income earned. So the companies in PEZA, most of the Japanese companies are usually located in economic zones. So normally they're entitled to an income tax holiday in their first 4 years of operations. It can be extended depending on certain circumstances. And then after the income tax holiday, they just pay 5% tax on their gross income earned. The government is planning to remove those incentives. Well, not totally remove it, but rationalize it. So supposedly under the proposed bill, there will be transitory provisions wherein that they will be only entitled to incentives for a couple of years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, depending on how long they've been operating already. But it doesn't mean that the government will not grant them incentives. Right now, tax incentives are granted by numerous agencies. You have the Board of Investments, you have the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, you have the Subic Bay, Clark, Bataan, all these economic zones. So the plan with Package 2 is to rationalize it, wherein there will only be one single agency that will be granting the incentives.
Okay, we've come to the end of the show, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to give your parting message, greet your relatives and friends. Maybe we can start with Attorney Tim.
I'd like to greet my kababayans there in Dumaguete. Ayang gabi, kaninyong tanan.
Micoy? Your
Hi,
parting.
I'd like to thank, I just want to remind everybody that the government needs our help in the taxes. 99% of the collection of the government comes from voluntary payment, so we need to do our part. So as the slogan of the BIR is, RFP. So what's that again? Let's just contribute and pay our correct taxes.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to our experts who joined us tonight, gave their opinion and their expertise and their time. Maraming salamat sa inyong dalawa, and I hope everyone learned a lot from this listening to us for 1 hour. This is Tonino Abana signing off. This is Libertas. Thank you so much.